years. Here's a 1991 Detroit Black Journal segment about all-male academies in Detroit.
There's been a lot of controversy over the all-male academy. Here's an excerpt from a former DBJ where we spoke with the local initiators. Obviously, we all know there's some very real numbers in terms of explaining the kinds of problems that we're confronting in the black community, particularly with young black males. Let's take a look at some of those numbers. I believe this was from the New Detroit Report, 1987. More than 600 youths arrested in Detroit, almost twice as many young people as 1986. 30% of the Detroit graduates did not receive endorsed diplomas, and of course we know that's because also the dropout rate was so high that when we talk about 30%, estimates range from 42 to 65% for the dropout rate for Detroit public school students that never even got to that point to receive a diploma. And then in 1988, the national black youth unemployment rate was 37%, but locally non-white unemployment was 53.2%.
And it takes men to be men and men to teach men how to be men. Ironically, the proposal for the Project Mystery was developed by two women, but even they had the foresight and the vision to understand that it would be more appropriate to have a man administer that program and work with, and there was a need to recruit men to serve in that capacity. Let me go on to say this. I think that in our community, we used to have an extended community, if you would, an extended family in the community. I can recall when I was growing up, my father, for example, left home when I was 11 years old, but there were a couple of men who just stepped in and just took that responsibility. One in particular, his name was Eugene Ford, who just kind of took me under his wing and adopted me to be his own son. But there was a man on my block named Rudolph Nelson, and Rudolph Nelson was married and had 6 kids and worked every day, and but Rudolph Nelson came home every day and was a father to every male black child on that block who didn't have a father.
I started a dropout prevention program on Saturday at Peck Elementary. It was the only one in the country. Part and parcel to that program was a mentoring program that we had for African American males. And a part of that was a sports program. As you probably well know, young African American males identify very strongly with sports. I use that in the sense I use it from the standpoint to motivate them to do well in academics. What we're talking about in the development of this academy is to develop a strong curricular program whereby our young men, one, will be able early on to be exposed to African American history, physics. People don't think they can learn physics, algebra, strong science curriculum, and a very competitive sports program that we do not have in the Detroit public schools, in the elementary and middle schools as they have in suburban school districts. But once again, use it as a carrot and say, here's some conditions. You must have a 2-point average or better, as opposed to waiting until the 11th grade.